of rock and roll. And, I don't take anything away from him. But, no, if you're going to talk the roots of rock and roll, it goes back way farther back than heavy rock or metal.
Oh, you're absolutely right. And as a side note to that, take a look at what happened with country back in the 70s, as country was leaning more and more towards the George Jones and Tammy Wynette's of the world, and getting what I refer to as being able to cut the syrup with a knife. You had guys like Sonny James and Narvel Feltz bringing back a beat, a doo-wop kind of sound to their country music.
Yes. And you had artists going to the more lush, orchestrated country music, which was really a crossover into pop music. To a large extent, the way it was done in the late 1940s. I mean, you had even Johnny Cash had a full orchestra backing him up when he did his TV series.
Yeah, that's right.
And several of his hits.
Yeah, that's right.
So,
that's right.
Yeah. So there's a lot of intermingling of the genres. But if you're going to talk classic rock and roll, no, classic rock is not Led Zeppelin. Led Zeppelin is a classic rock band, but it's not the term classic rock.
Well, they have hits that could be considered to be classic hits, but I would never. I have to agree with you. They're not classic rock. I'm going to look at the Ink Spots as classic rock, and I'm going to look at your buddies in Fort Lauderdale, the Majestics.
The Mystics.
The Mystics, yeah, the Mystics is classic rock. And
and by the way, they're not living in Fort Lauderdale anymore, but that's okay. They're up in Hollywood now.
They've gone all Hollywood, all right.
I was going to say the classic doo-wop groups out of the 1950s. I mean, they took what was adult pop music of the 40s and early 50s, and they were doing it on the street corners and putting their own twist to it. And doing all the vocalizing, which was it was essentially filling in for the music, the instrumentation. They didn't have to back themselves up. You had one guy singing lead, and the rest filling in with, doo-wops and other sounds to make up for the fact that they didn't have any instrumentation to back them up. So, that's a thing with me. And yes, if you have a comment, a criticism, you want to disagree with me or what, my mailbox is wide open. Drop me a line, David at TheDavidBowers.com. And, hey, maybe we'll continue this discussion on a later show. Right now, it's time to call on our first guest who's coming in and going to introduce himself. We'll be talking with him and getting to learn more about Drake King in 3 or 4 minutes. Right after we listen to this song. This is Drake King. We'll make him welcome as he does Better Man.
You said you're really through with this. This time you're really meaning that you're done. Too many chances have been given. He's taking you for granted for the last time. You're tired of the ups and downs, 'cause there's always less ups and downs. You're tired of being low. So I say, hey, lady, do you want my love? Lately you're the one I'm thinking of. No need in us being alone. So I say, hey, lady, hold on to as we take a chance. No need in us being alone. I'll be a better man. I can see you're having trouble. The way to make it easy to explain. Don't worry your pretty hair, trying to justify what seems insane. Yeah, might sound crazy, who's to say that we're not crazy and needing help? I'll be a better listener. I'll understand what he can. I'll be a better man. I'll be a better friend. I'll be a better listener. I'll understand what he can. I'll be a better man. I'll be a better man. I'll be a better man.
That's Better Man. His name is Drake King, and he's here with us right now. Come on in, Drake, and say hello to everyone.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? Nice to be here.
Doing just great. So glad you could be here with us today, and we thank you for that. Great sound. I got to tell you, I love that song I just played of yours, and as a matter of fact, that's the one that I heard that caught my attention and directed me to you. It's got a, I don't know how you would classify it, but it's got a country sound to it, but yet It's got a very subtly driving pop beat. I mean, it doesn't have that solid bass or drum sound driving it, but it's there. It's a very subtle beat to it. Did you do the arrangement to this?
I wrote the song, the music and the lyrics, but the reason that it's kind of like that weird cross between, like an older country and the newer pop is because when I recorded it in Nashville with a bunch of guys who were part of the A-Team back in the day. And so it was kind of like, I don't know if you know who Harold Bradley is. He's the guy who produced it. Yeah, so Harold Bradley produced that track, or that whole album, actually. And so you're hearing his sound and my style, I guess, kind of combining there to make that musical baby.
Well, I'll tell you that's one. You got yourself a heck of a man there, because anybody that's familiar with, especially with country music over the last 40, 50 years, has to know who Harold Bradley is. And I'll tell you what, the two of you come together with a nice sound. You got a good sound there. John Bon Jovial, how about chipping in your opinion?
Oh, sure. Well, first of all, Drake, welcome to the show. We are thrilled to have you on with us.
Hey, I'm honored to be here.
Well, it's a two-way street, my friend. But in listening to your music, I'm going to agree with everything that David just said, but what I'm going to add to it is one of the feelings that I got from it was, and this is going to sound kind of strange, but I got a feeling of security. And by that, it made me think back to a time, call it the 50s or the 60s, where you're living a comfortable life and you've got a white picket fence around your house and everything is good. And that was one of the first things that I thought about. And I don't know why I did. But the more I listen to it, the more I'm thinking to myself, a white picket fence makes you feel good. So that's what I'm going to go with.
That's a really interesting insight. I don't think I would have ever thought of it that way, but we all have our own perspective, and that's kind of the beauty of music, is that it brings it out in us.
Well, David will tell you that my perspectives sometimes can be a little on the off-the-wall side.
Well, yeah. He does have a different perspective, and as we mentioned to most of our guests, and I'll mention it to you right now, Drake, John never gets to hear this music ahead of time. And I do that on purpose.
It is, yeah, and I prefer it that way.
Because I like to get his instant opinion. I don't like him to be biased with, anything that I or the artist might say. And I don't want to give him time to get comfortable with it. I want to hear his first opinion, because let's face it, the opinion that the listeners have the first time they listen to your song is often the one that makes or breaks it. And I like to get John's, off the cuff, his first impression, good, bad, or indifferent. And for listeners who aren't familiar, Harold Bradley actually started in the 1950s, and he engineered, arranged, and produced for Patsy Cline, Willie Nelson, Roy Orbison, Elvis, even Slim Whitman. He's in the Musicians Hall of Fame. I'll tell you, if you are a student of music in this country, and we just had a big one. I was going to say discussion. It was more like a diatribe on my part, discussing classic rock. My feelings, because hard rock genre has kind of tried to take over the quote classic rock unquote genre, and I was just pontificating on that. But anybody who's a student of rock or popular American music over the last 50, 60 years, if you don't know who Harold Bradley is, look him up and get to know him, because his name is such a big part of what we call the American popular music that you really should know who he is. You did a great job. I like the song. What's coming up for you, Drake?
Well, I'm releasing a new song called "Settle Too Soon" here this month on the 29th, and this is one that I made start to finish. I mean, I did all the instruments, all the producing, the mixing, the mastering, everything myself. So it'll be interesting to see how people react to it. It's one of my kind of drawbacks as far as when I went to the studio. It's like you can hear these sounds in your head, but you can't always explain how you want somebody to play a certain thing, or if they're playing it one way, it's kind of hard to, for me anyway, to express how I want it to sound. And so by having the chance to sit down and just take my time and write the song out, it allowed for those sounds to come to fruition. But that's, we haven't released any new music in a little while, so we figured we'll give a little taste. I mean, I have a lot of songs that are just waiting to be seen, but we've got a few things that we're kind of looking at the moment, so we're just going to release this one and see where it goes and try to plan from there.
I agree. We want to hear that song, and we're going to be playing it here in just a few minutes, so you folks in my listening audience will be among the first to actually hear Drake's new release. This was a little bit of a surprise to us, Drake. I'm glad you brought the song with us. We were really looking forward to it. Now, aside from the new track, which we're going to be playing in a couple of minutes, what else have you got coming up in the near future?
Well, music-wise, we're just kind of, I'm focused more on writing and trying to get more songs done in the studio, because it takes a lot more time to do them myself than to have a full band and everything like that. With working these other jobs to fund my music, that
sure.
that kind of gets in the way of it. So really, we're just trying to focus on that and see where it goes.
That's the double-edged sword of this technological era we're in right now. It's wonderful that artists can release their own music. They don't have to kill themselves for years trying to get a recording contract before they can release their music. But then the downside is you got to do a lot more work to get it done. It takes more time, and you got to do your own. You got to do your own publicity and distribution. So that's one of the reasons that we've said all along. The artists today have to understand that the second word in music business is business.
That's exactly right.
You better learn how to do business, my friend, because this is a tough business to be in. Are you doing any touring?
No, not at the moment. I'm actually, so my career plan as far as music is concerned at the moment, I'm training to be a pilot. And so
really?
what I plan to do is